Hello, and welcome to the Freedom Challenge online podcast. Here at the Freedom Challenge, we strive to do good by helping enslaved women and children to do more than you ever thought physically possible, and to do it together by connecting women with a heart for a hurting world. We hope you enjoy your time being informed and encouraged with host Tracy Daugherty and our amazing guests. So let's get ready and join Tracy for this week's episode.
Welcome back to the Freedom Challenge online podcast. This is your host, Tracy Daugherty. I just got back from a wonderful one-day challenge in Arkansas, Arkansas. This is the second time that we have been there, and it really did outpace my expectation. As usual, we gathered with passionate women who participated in physical challenges that tested their limits, and they raised funds and awareness to set women and children on a pathway to freedom. Along with that, we had a prayer team that gathered and worshiped. And Friday night, the church there in Mena welcomed many of us, men, women, even children, to pray into this issue. It was a beautiful time, sacred time to pray over what's happening in the world, to pray over Arkansas and one another and the workers that we are supporting here at Freedom Challenge. With us today is Jeannie. She is an Arkansas resident, and this is the first time I've met Jeannie, and I'm really thrilled to introduce her to you and have a meaningful conversation about how she came to the Arkansas one-day challenge, what it was like participating in it, and a little bit about her background.
I want to say, first of all, I loved the challenge so much. The next thing I'm doing is looking for which one I'm going to do next, because this is not a one and done. Really, what I thought I was signing up for was a one-day little adventure, and that's it. But no, nope, I'm hooked. So I'm Jeannie Hudspeth. I'm in Mountain View, Arkansas. Been here all my life. Probably the most important thing about me is love for God and family. That's my main thing. But I also have a job. I work for the Set Me Free Project, where we provide human trafficking prevention education for all ages. I'm the Eastern Regional Outreach Coordinator and also a regional trainer. So I help train people on how to use our curriculum that we provide. I decided at the beginning of 2026 that I was going to look for events that I could go to related to human trafficking. So I literally typed in Google anti-human trafficking events in Arkansas, and there's the Freedom Challenge, the one-day Arkansas challenge. So that's how I found it. And it was definitely so much more than I ever thought it was going to be. It was one experience. Wonderful experience.
I mean, it says so much about you just hearing that snippet. The fact that you would make a goal to want to engage with others in your community, that you clearly are a galvanizer, someone who wants to bring people into what you're engaged in, loving God, loving people, loving neighbor. It brought so much delight to my heart that this little search engine called Google could get you to us. So for someone, I really want to know this, for someone who has never been to a challenge, really just set out to say local events, what's going on in Arkansas, would you describe what this event was like for you? What did you experience just beyond the logistics of showing up?
So as a first timer, I walked in not knowing a soul. I drove 4 hours by myself to get there, planned on doing the thing like alone. Almost immediately, people were approaching me by name and started talking to me, made conversation, made me feel so welcome. I knew immediately this is different than what I thought. So when I got home at the end of the whole thing, after feeling so much warmth, so much realness, I tell you what, the word that I kept getting in my head was just genuine. These people are so genuine in their prayers, in the worship. These are real people with real hearts for Jesus and hearts for people who are exploited and stuck in situations that they can't get out of. So when I had time to process everything after getting home, I wanted to make a little social media post to thank people who had supported us. And the way I summed up that post was I said, I wanted everyone to know that this was not just an event, it was an experience. It's not something you just attend, do the thing, walk away back into ordinary life. You can be changed by one of these events if you let yourself. I was not expecting that. I just thought I was going to come do the thing and go home.
We would describe ourselves as a movement of passionate women, which means that as we're moving, we're collecting more women who care, more women whose unique perspective, place in the world, geographical destination where they live, all of those things began to create a really diverse movement. And that is our heart, multi-generational. I'm chuckling at mamas that were pumping for their babies back at home, and
Yes.
a mama was carrying their baby with them. And just it creates such a beautiful, again, movement of women together doing something called biblical justice. Specifically, what were some of the components of that stood out to you or made you realize this is going to be different than expected?
I feel like, for one thing, it was a genuine sense of bonding with these women for a singular cause. We were women from all walks of life, in all stages of life. I mean, we all have such varied backgrounds and current situations, but being united for that one singular cause, that's a significant of what made it so important to me. And I think that's why it spoke to me so much, because these people who are trapped in trafficking need someone interceding on their behalf. And when we're united together for them, and we're not just throwing up a prayer here and there, but we are setting ourselves aside and focusing on asking God to intervene for these individuals. And one of the things during the prayer gathering, one of the things that was said was, picture a face, picture one person who's caught in trafficking, and think about that one person. And when you put a face to what you're praying for, instead of just seeing a mass of, we know there's 50 million people involved in trafficking situations, but when you realize that's not just a mass of humans, those are individual faces and individual lives and souls, that brings you together, that unites you in a way that you can't superficially do that. That's deep within you. And the Spirit, I think, moves that way. So when you are appealing to God on behalf of someone else with yourself totally set aside, He does amazing things in your heart and on behalf of you as well. It says where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there I am in the midst of them. And that's what we were doing. We were gathered together in the name of Jesus on behalf of all these people who are being exploited and are so vulnerable. And that's just not something you do every day.
This idea of individually but corporately, the power in that embodied, set apart time, the expressed prayer, the womanhood, the for women by women, all of that. It creates the most unique experience that you've described. We tried to make things challenging because we grow when we're challenged. And you can see that even on our team, there were individuals who were challenged spiritually or emotionally or physically, some more than others based on where they were coming from. So we had a whole varied group and uniquely stayed together, but individually and as a unit. What challenged you personally? Or where did you feel God inviting you deeper into something through this challenge?
So I think emotionally, I think I was stretched in ways that I wasn't expecting because of that, what I said before, picturing one face. And man, what if I'm responsible for that one person? What if I'm the one praying for that one child or that one woman? That emotionally challenges you for sure. And it made me feel the weight of responsibility as a Christian to do that on behalf of others. I also think that spiritually, giving it all to God, because there's only so much that we can do, but giving it all to God and giving Him glory for what He's already done and what He will do, um, is a big thing that I felt. We turn our continual gaze upon Jesus because that's where our hope and our strength comes from. So spiritually, I think that spoke to me so much that yes, we have to be aware of these issues. We have to glance at them in order to know that they're there and how important they are. But we gaze we keep our eyes fixed on Jesus. And that's what keeps us from just being overwhelmed with this situation that maybe we can't physically go do anything about. But boy, spiritually, when we unite, we can do so much. I loved where we talked about when we worship, God fights. I was raised in church. I know all the things, the stories and things that happened in the Bible, but I thought, I need to reread that. So I literally went back and looked up what happened with this, where this quote came from in 2nd Chronicles, where Jehoshaphat and everyone in Jerusalem and Judah was told, the Lord says, do not be afraid or discouraged. Do not be afraid or discouraged. The battle is not yours, but God's. It's not your battle. It's God's battle. But what they did was stand your ground, but they sent out singers to sing and worship and praise God. And when they did that, that's when the Lord acted. And so keeps running through my mind. It just keeps running through my mind. When we worship, God fights. And that's literally what happened in the Bible. They sent out the singers and the worshipers. And when that happened, the Lord brought victory.
It's as if God went, these humans need marching orders outside of their human desire to just suit up and fight because it's too big. So it just puts all of it back on God.
Yeah.
And we do our part to set him in the place, which is above every name. He's above every name. He's above the name of trafficking, all of that.
Yeah. And we don't give up just because we can't personally fix it. We don't give up. We give it to God. And he fights on our behalf and on their behalf.
Life-changing.
Yeah. Yes. Deeply.
Yeah. And allows us to safely engage this topic without just collapsing into despondency or hopelessness or overwhelm.
Right.
We can just, and I wonder if some people turn away from even being able to glance at it because there is a sense of hopelessness. I can't do anything anyways. What's my part in this?
I think that's
all
true.
of those kinds of conversations that we can have when we feel out of control or sad or overwhelmed or flooded. That's really beautiful. Something interesting about you, and I see you sporting your cute logo shirts that set me free. I want to hear all about this, and I want you to tell more about what it is that you do. I know your focus on prevention, and as we talked about during our time, 50%, 56% currently of our funds raised go to prevention projects. Really knowing that if we can cause a young boy, a young girl, a woman to have a different path, it's a different story that gets written. So we really heavily are invested in that. And I found myself very interested in what it is that you are particularly doing as a trainer, but the heart behind the organization you're working with. So educate us on prevention. Give us a quick tutorial because you're teaching all over I think even outside of Arkansas, but frame that up for us.
Yeah. So the Set Me Free project started in 2014, and it's actually based in Omaha, Nebraska. It's a national organization now. I'm one of the first people to bring it to the southern states. So they're in the Midwest heavily, West Coast, East Coast. So here we are now starting in the South. And then originally we were just in schools. Our CEO and founder brought prevention education to schools because what she saw was that we were becoming aware of human trafficking as a problem, and groups were coming up and stepping up and doing things to try to help, to try to, rescue victims, help them recover, but nothing was being done to educate the targets of trafficking. And so she kind of started the whole movement of let's get into the schools and talk to the people who are going to be targeted so they can be prepared and know what to watch out for. And so that's where we started. And now we've grown from that middle school age curriculum to age appropriate, exciting, engaging curriculum all the way from kindergarten, which we don't say human trafficking in kindergarten. We talk about healthy relationships, what a trustworthy person is, that kind of thing. So we start age appropriate from kindergarten all the way to high school and college. But then we've also expanded now so that we have curriculum for different industries, things that they can watch for in the banking world, in hotels and motels, law enforcement and first responders. We have curriculum for parents and caregivers. Pretty much any group that you can think of, we have a curriculum geared specifically for what they need to know and what they need to watch for. So it's just bringing more awareness, not just that, oh, there's a problem out there, but that, hey, there's some things you can watch for. There's some things you can teach your kids so that your kids are safer, and just making everyone aware of things that they specifically can do in their, whatever their walk of life is. There's something they can do to help prevent trafficking.
I want you to continue on, but you and I, when I asked you about this, you mentioned, we were talking about how these things kind of rapidly change and shift and update. And oftentimes parents and educators and others are not even aware of what has happened in 6 months because of various platforms and so forth. So you mentioned that yearly you have a discipline as a team to go back and update with all of the tricky people and tricky ways that this is unfolding in our communities, which I really appreciated, because you have really got to stay connected to know the next onslaught that's come your way. I really honor the discipline of updating yearly, because the moment we roll out, there's more coming.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So what else should we know?
So the most important thing, and this is the underlying theme that's in every single piece of our curriculum, we have 30 plus pieces of curriculum. Every single one of them points this out. Every human, every person has intrinsic God-given value that cannot be changed or taken away. Once you realize that nothing you do and nothing that anyone can do to you changes that, that gives you power as a person, the power to say no when you want to say no, the power to ask for help when you need to ask for help. So that's the underlying message of everything that we do, is every single person has intrinsic God-given value. Adult, child, boy, girl, doesn't matter. You have intrinsic value that never changes. I don't care what anybody did or said about you, you have value. So that's our underlying piece, and that's something that not all kids hear. So if you have kids, or if you know kids, and there are adults who don't even realize this. Tell people who don't know that they are valuable. Can't emphasize that enough. But other than that, besides that, one of the things that's really scary is how much money human trafficking generates. And I think that's the draw. That's what keeps people in it. In 2024, the International Labor Organization updated the figures, $236 billion a year. That's with a B. $136 billion a year is generated by human trafficking. So, that's hard to talk people out of who just want money.
Horrifying.
It's incredible that this much money is going to such a horrid, dark place. But
can I say one thing? Valuable people, which you just talked about, commodified, right? So people have value. They don't know it.
Right.
But opportunists commodify that.
Yeah.
And that is a twisted mess.
They turn them into a product, and that is heart-wrenching to know that's what's going on. So I will say this, human trafficking, by definition, is when someone uses force, fraud, or coercion to force another person to provide services or labor or commercial sex acts. So 80% of those cases come from the fraud and coercion piece. Force is rarely used. A lot of times we think if we don't see some creepy old guy in an old white van, then there's no human traffickers around. Like we picture creepy old guy, creepy old van, and he grabs you off the street and shoves you in his van and takes off. Rarely does that happen. It's very rare. 80% or more of the time, it's people who have built a relationship. They've targeted someone and built a relationship with them, and now they're going to use fraud and coercion to keep them under their thumb. So we're not always watching out for what we used to think it was. So it's really important as parents to be aware who your kids are communicating with, how they're spending their time online. A sad thing to know is that more than 80% of people who are trafficked by a family member. But of those who are not trafficked by a family member, 65% of those were targeted online. So either through gaming, social media, or dating apps. 65% were targeted there. So super important as parents to be aware of what your kids are on, be involved. And one of the things that we say is make it so routine, make checking their phone so routine that it doesn't feel like an accusation when you say, hey, let me go through your apps. I want to check your phone. As a parent, you can do should. But just make it so routine that your kids don't feel like, what do you think I'm doing? Routine. It's just something we do, like putting your seatbelt on when we go somewhere. We're not planning on getting a wreck, but we wear a seatbelt to protect you. And checking your kid's phone as a routine is just to protect them. It's not because you think your kid's doing something they shouldn't, but you don't know who's out there approaching your kid. So
to that point, Jeannie, I wanted to just highlight something that you just said that's so very practical. The idea of making it so routine that they don't feel accused or not trusted. And correlating it to putting a seatbelt on, because every person with a cell phone is vulnerable, especially our children who don't have fully developed prefrontal cortexes and are not understanding. I like the idea of pairing that together to say there's vulnerabilities in a car. And that's not your fault. That doesn't make you untrustworthy. It just means that there's predators or people that are not paying attention. And the same thing with this. And it keeps it a really ongoing conversation. That is really good. And framing it that way is really healthy.
Right. Yeah, I think so too. Be open with your kids. Have open conversations about why we're doing this. Make sure they know that they can come to you about anything. They don't need to hide anything from you. They can be open. If somebody is approaching them on social media or otherwise, they can come to you and not feel like they're going to be blamed for someone approaching them. So just keep communication with them open all the time so that they feel free to bring anything to you.
That's where that coercion comes, the natural sense of using shame against someone who is the victim in the situation, right? That's like the master manipulation tool to say, if you find yourself, it's my fault, I caused this, if I expose this, I'm going to be, it's all that tricky people manipulation piece that happens often in seclusion and vulnerability. And I love what you've left with us to really think about. And it's really not even to just be like moving away from that traditional fear of there's a creepy guy, they're going to grab our kids.
Right.
Most often, they're not looking for the everyday kid that's just going to school who's filled with family and confidence. They're looking for the slow, manipulative cracks that come with the trickery of saying, oh, I'm actually a part of it because I said yes. And that is where that ensnarement happens, which is so devastating.
Exactly.
So much wisdom you have left with us. I feel like there's a lot of joy to think about how God is placing you in this movement of passionate women. I'm looking forward to seeing you at other things and continuing to learn from you as I just did in our small encounter. There's things top of mind that I have not been articulating, even in a position that I'm in, but as a mom and a grandma and things that I'm reminded of that are quite powerful and helpful. And I hope all of our listeners will take those things to heart as well.
Yes.
And that you will be with us on another epic challenge in the times to come.
Absolutely will. Absolutely will.
We are honored to know you, Freedom Sisters and listeners that are joining and listening. I am looking to get you involved this year because we have plenty of ways to engage. Please check out the website. We have plenty of opportunities, even some things in 2027 that are already listed. And until next time, I want to say, let's all continue to do good by helping enslaved women and children do more than you ever thought physically possible, and to do it together with connecting with other women who have a heart for a hurting world. God bless.
Thanks for listening to the Freedom Challenge online podcast. If you liked what you heard, join the fight to set women and children on a pathway to freedom across the globe. We are a proud ministry of Operation Mobilization USA and encourage you to learn more at thefreedomchallenge.com and omusa.org for how you can get involved. Follow us on Facebook, on Instagram at the FCUSA, and don't forget to subscribe and leave a review to let us know what you think. We'll see you next time.